Amid the turmoil with the pandemic and civil unrest, we listen to some words of encouragement from an unexpected source, now on the Accessible Faith Project. Hi there, I'm John, and welcome to the Accessible Faith Project. If you're new here and looking for insights into the Bible, faith, and history in ways that engage your brain, then please hit subscribe and that little bell icon so you can receive a notification every time I upload a new video. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to run its course, I have mobilized the resources of the Accessible Faith Project to provide not only educational resources, but also worship and devotional videos. This video is one of those. The first chapter of Genesis may well be the most read part of the Bible, if for no other reason that it is the beginning of how the book is arranged. Even if our noble quest to read the Bible from cover to cover fails miserably, at least we will have read chapter 1. But even so, there is so much more to this first chapter. This epic poem proclaims the glories of the universe while at the same time standing in defiant protest of oppressive power. It is appropriate, especially given what we have witnessed in recent weeks. But we get so hung up on it being literal or not literal that we've entirely missed the point of the story, and we don't hear, much less learn, of the real power that this passage is saying, what God is saying to each of us, to you, to me, and that we are part of something wondrous and marvelous that is genuinely awesome beyond words. Contrary to what we might conventionally think, the first chapter of Genesis is not the oldest part of the Bible. Employing a little bit of a literary archaeology, we know that this opening chapter was written during the devastation of the Babylonian exile between 580 and 500 BC. Written at a point where the people of Israel were actively wondering where God was in the face of injustice. They were actively questioning God's presence. God had seemed to be unwilling or unable to stop the Babylonian army from destroying Jerusalem and the temple. People were asking, "Where is God?" and they were not getting an answer. The Babylonians claimed that their gods, and not the God of Israel, were the true masters of creation. The tales of Marduk creating the world by slaying the great dragon Tiamat were something that their captors told them. The first chapter of Genesis is a robust, defiant response that begs to differ. It is a song of the majesty and of the freedom of God for an imprisoned people who felt small and insignificant. It proclaims the wonders of creation, while at the same time setting the record straight as to who is really in charge. And it does so by playing on and dismantling those stories of Marduk and the dragon, by showing that God's power comes not from a mighty sword arm or a great cosmic weapon, but from the simple act of speaking a gentle but powerful word. It is those words that are the most powerful. In the beginning, the Spirit of God hovers over the great waters that represent chaos. God says, "Let there be," and there is. It doesn't show God picking up materials or using tools to fashion creation with a divine hand. God says, "Let there be," and it happens. God brings order out of the chaos of those primordial waters that, curiously enough, echo the name Tiamat. But what is even more powerful than this is how God responds and perceives creation. As this poem unfolds, each day concludes with God seeing the elements of what has come together and calls it good. The light, good. Earth and seas, good. Vegetation and trees, good. Sun and moon, good. Creatures of the sea and air, good. Creatures of the land, good. For each of these parts of creation, God calls them good, and there's something profoundly right about it. God looks at it all, including all of humanity, and calls it very good. And nowhere else in the Bible does God call anything else very good. No amount of words can adequately describe how pleased God is with the universe, and that all of it is awesome beyond words. Remember in this passage that the world is being called awesome beyond words at a point where everybody else believed that it had all gone wrong. Amid disaster, war, political strife, the universe as God intends it is still awesome beyond words. It means that this world that we are part of is God's world, and it is good, but it is so much more than that. Genesis chapter 1 was written to encourage and support a people who had lost all of their hope, one whose own world has come collapsing in on itself. Over time, they had built up this notion that no matter what they did, God would always be on their side. They had become arrogant, self-righteous, and had presumed that no matter what decision they made, they did so with God's automatic stamp of approval. But the arrival of the Babylonians changed all of that, and their world came crashing down. And yet amid that despair, that loss of faith, someone began to realize that maybe it wasn't God who had failed them, but somehow they had lost their way. Now, amid their exile, God was beginning to pave the way to bring them home and rekindle their faith, but in such a way that they saw God in a much more profound way. No longer would God be their protective guardian against a host of other deities. They began to see God as the Lord of all creation, who was in control no matter what. The real rub for us, for you and I, is this powerful reminder that the world and the universe into which we are born is profoundly good. It is awesome beyond words. The God of Hebrew Scriptures is no different than the God of the New Testament expressed in the Holy Trinity. The world that God created, that we live in together, no matter what that process was, is awesome beyond words. You and I are part of something that is awesome beyond words. But the challenge for us is seeing it. Sometimes it's pretty obvious, like the feeling of being so tiny next to the massive old growth trees in Cathedral Grove near my in-laws' place on Vancouver Island, or being at the top of Haleakala, the big dormant volcano on the island of Maui, or seeing the tremendous oceanic swells smashing into the rocks at Peggy's Cove in Nova Scotia. You've had your own experiences of that, but it doesn't have to be big and spectacular either. It can be in how our children play and see the wonder in a garden. See, my son doesn't like that we mow the lawn because we are chopping down all those pretty yellow sunflowers. We also see it in how people come together, even in times of crisis, to unite, to help, and to heal. No matter how large or small, all of this is being part of God's creation and realizing that we are part of something that is beautiful. To a group of people in despair and exile, this text proclaimed trust in the power of God to bring abundant, fulfilling life. God playfully yet methodically goes about the tasks of creating and then resting, but doesn't stop there. God has a special ongoing relationship with creation. God does not create and then abandon. Even during the chaos with the pandemic or the civil unrest that we have seen demanding justice, this is true. God's Spirit is at work through the people who are trying to help, who are giving comfort and hope, who are defiantly protesting and agitating for change. God calls us to be a part of this ongoing creative process for the betterment of everyone. This world, this universe, is awesome beyond words, and it is worth fighting for. Amen.